You want the whole story, huh? The good, the bad, the ugly, how a bunch of power-hungry yuppies tried to steal my family's island and how patience not rage turned the tables. Well, buckle up. This one's got bulldozers, backstabbing, and a lesson my grandfather tried to pound into my head some debts take decades to collect, but when the bill comes due, man, does it hurt. Congratulations, Mr. Blackwood. Those were the first words out of the HOA president's mouth as she waved her clipboard in my face. Can you imagine that? Some smug smile like she just solved world hunger? Your private island will finally serve the community instead of one selfish hermit. Bulldozers hit at dawn, she said. 38 luxury cabins coming soon, 350 grand each. They claimed some ancient watershed clause in the county's lake records gave them power over my land, never mind the original 1923 deed with my family's name on it. Lawyers said their claim was shaky, but shaky doesn't stop a bulldozer, does it? You know, a sane person probably would have lost it right there. Me, I didn't say a word. Every morning I'd stand outside, mug of coffee in my boxers, and watch those century-old pines get torn down, chainsaws screaming, diesel smoke burning my eyes. Darlene, the HOA queen, called me selfish. The work crew laughed like they'd already won. Neighbors whispered, "Fight back." The sheriff just shrugged. Civil matter. Most folks would have exploded on day one. But not me. Best revenge, patience. You let them dig their own grave, one shovel of arrogance at a time. Let them build, let them sell. Grand opening coming up, buyers lined up like lemmings. I waited. When the court date finally landed, the judge opened that 1923 deed and started reading out loud. What happened next? Well, you'll want to hear that. I gotta ask, if this were you, would you swing first or wait for the perfect punch? Anyway, I'm Ezra Blackwood. That island. It's been in my family since Al Capone was running Chicago. My grandfather Silas bought those 47 acres in 1923 for about the price of a used car now. The old man knew what he was doing. He just never told me about the pirates that come for your gold. I inherited Eagle's Rest 5 years ago after 2 decades of building bridges for the government Marine Corps engineering. Spent my prime putting up stuff while people tried to blow it sky high. Figured I'd earned some peace, some quiet, a place where the loudest thing was a loon calling across the water. The cabin's still old school. Cedar logs, stone fireplace that could heat a church. Solar panels installed by yours truly. The well water best I've ever tasted. I'd sit out on that dock, coffee in hand, listening to the world wake up. Felt like freedom. But freedom doesn't mean much when the snakes show up. Meet Darlene Pritchard. Bleach blonde, always wearing more perfume than scents, queen of the Lakeside Estates, HOA. You know the type. Rolls up in a white Escalade that burns more gas in a week than my grandfather's boat did in a year. Her HOA cookie-cutter mansions sprouting up like weeds on the mainland shore. Yards so green you'd swear they paint the grass. She arrived unannounced, standing on my dock Tuesday morning like she owned the place, clutching that clipboard like a sword. No hello, no smile, just straight into "Mr. Blackwood, I'm here about your numerous property violations." I must have looked like the exact hillbilly she was expecting, barefoot and flannel, smelling like sawdust. She started rattling off complaints. Your dock violates architectural standards. Your cabin's an eyesore. These solar panels destroy our community's aesthetic harmony. I almost laughed. My island's 200 yards away from her McMansion colony. Never signed a single HOA paper in my life. Never even met these people before. But you know what got me? That tone. That absolute certainty that she could just take whatever she wanted. So I asked, just for fun, how much? 15 grand in architectural review fees. Monthly dues. We're being generous with the payment plan. I almost spit my coffee. Lady, this is private property. Been in my family since... We'll see about that, sweetie. She turned on her heels, gave me 30 days to comply, and disappeared in a spray of wake. I just stood there, deed in my hand, wondering if I'd imagined the whole thing. Spoiler, I hadn't. 48 hours later, County Inspector Pete rolled up, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. My dock passed Coast Guard inspection months before, suddenly needed emergency repairs. Septic system was unsafe, needed a full replacement. Solar panel permits expired overnight. Sorry, Mr. Blackwood, Pete muttered. Orders from Commissioner Hollister. Gotta do things by the book now. Wade Hollister. Added that one to the enemies list. By the weekend, my mail stopped showing up. Internet died, propane delivery cut off, liability concerns. That night, sipping coffee on the dock, I watched the sunset glow on water that now stank of boat fuel. It hit me this wasn't just bureaucracy. This was war. The goal? Make life so miserable I'd sell and run. The loons still called, but now it sounded like they were laughing at me. Darlene came out swinging. Within days, she'd weaponized every branch of county government against me. First shot, commercial zoning violation. My buddy Jake brought his kids fishing once, twice a year. Now I was running an unlicensed commercial operation. Never charged a dime, but apparently that was business activity. County moved fast. Emergency zoning review permit demands inspections. Know what commercial permits cost on the lake? 50 grand just for paperwork. The Pentagon could learn a thing or two from these people. But here's the kicker. Every permit I needed required approval from the Lakeside Estates HOA Environmental Committee. Like asking a fox to guard your chicken coop. The squeeze kept coming. Mail officially stopped. Internet killed for residential use violation. Marina stopped selling me fuel insurance issues. Even Tommy, the dock manager who knew my grandfather, couldn't help. Sorry, Ezra. New policy. Bureaucratic doors slammed so hard you could feel the echoes on the water. But when enemies get coordinated, they show you their structure. Time to do some recon. I drove to the courthouse. Yeah, I keep an old pickup stashed on the mainland and dug through records for 8 straight hours. Fluorescent lights buzzing, dust swirling, coffee brewing in the corner. That's when I met Mavis Smith, clerk since the Carter years. Looking into the Pritchard thing, she whispered, "Should I be?" She slid a fat folder across the table. Pattern became clear. 7 waterfront owners hit with the same harassment campaign, complaints, violations, utility shutoffs. All sold within 90 days, every property snapped up by the same LLC, Pristine Waters. Guess who ran it? Bradford Pritchard, Darlene's husband. Suddenly it all clicked. This was systematic. Not random HOA bullying. It was a playbook for legal land theft. Marines don't retreat. We improvise. That night I called 2 people. First attorney Miranda Cross, environmental law, eats corporations for breakfast. Second, Cole Santos, a private investigator who could follow money trails through a hurricane. Miranda listened, then said, "If this pattern holds, we're looking at federal crimes. RICO even. Document everything." I could tell right then this was going to cost the Pritchards more than money. While Cole worked his magic on the shell companies, I let the campaign keep rolling, documenting every little thing. Autumn rolled in cold and crisp. Wood smoke from my chimney leaves dying gold. Darlene probably thought she was winning. I knew better. Dawn came with diesel engines. Out my bedroom window, a construction barge bigger than my whole cabin. Hard hats swarmed like angry bees. Bulldozers, concrete trucks, everything moving fast. The foreman, Tank Morrison, built like a linebacker, was surprisingly polite. "Sorry about the early start, sir. We're just on a tight schedule. All our permits are in order." He handed me a stack of paperwork: emergency soil remediation, temporary housing, EPA, this EPA, that. I yelled over the chaos. "What contamination?" He handed me a soil report, looked real official. "Petroleum contamination. EPA priority site. Gonna build temporary housing for the cleanup crew. 38 units. I'd never had a gas tank buried on the island in my life. But the paperwork looked airtight. That's the genius of a perfect lie sprinkle in just enough truth. Yeah, there'd been a spill at the marina years ago, miles away. But here, clean as it gets. I asked how long they'd be tearing up my family's land. Couple months for housing, then the real cleanup. Should have it ready for your grandkids by spring. Tank was just a guy trying to do his job, pay the crew. Darlene's trick. She made my neighbors complicit. If I stopped construction, I'd kill their jobs right before Christmas. That's not just legal warfare. That's psychological warfare. So I spent my days documenting. Photos, videos, chainsaws killing old pines. By lunch, my grandfather's workshop was nothing but a concrete slab. That night I called Miranda. They're moving fast. Permits look bulletproof. She sounded almost happy. Every cabin they build is more evidence. Every dollar they spend, they owe you in damages. There's a legal doctrine called willful trespass, triple damages for knowing violations. I did the math, 38 cabins, millions in labor. Triple damages. They were building a $12 million mistake. 3 weeks in, Darlene went public. The local paper usually reports on bake sales and lost cows ran a front-page story. Local environmental hero saves contaminated island. According to them, I was an evil hermit blocking environmental progress. Darlene, of course, was Captain Planet. Testimonials poured in from concerned citizens who turned out to be her landscaper and the HOA board, all under fake names. The Lakeside Estates Facebook page exploded with Save Our Lake propaganda. Stock photos everywhere, mothers of 3 who'd never seen a lake all cheering Darlene. The crazy part? It worked. Environmental groups picked up the story. Even the woman who used to bring my grandfather casseroles now avoided me at the grocery store. The threats came next. Anonymous letters, tires/truck windows smashed, paintballs on my solar panels, hardware store out of stock, gas station broken pumps. But the whole time I was mapping their operation like a military analyst, every player, every move, every dirty connection. Mavis, my clerk friend, slipped me more files, campaign donations, county officials tied to Pritchard money. Even the judge had a yacht party invite. The whole thing was rotten, and all of it evidence. One night, watching footage from hidden cameras, I saw something wild. Tank Morrison, the foreman, was quietly taking his own photos of the destruction. Endangered herons, wildflowers bulldozed, pristine springs polluted. The next morning, Tank came up during coffee break. He looked rough. "Mr. Blackwood, you ever have a fuel tank on this island?" "Any kind of petroleum storage?" I told him straight. 23 years, the only fuel here is for my outboard, and I've got maintenance records to prove it. He just sagged like someone had kicked the supports out from under him. That night, watching construction lights flicker, I realized Darlene's scheme was backfiring. Her lies were making more enemies than friends. Then a miracle. Ransacking my grandfather's filing cabinet for the 100th time, desperate for anything, I found a false back panel. Hidden inside, wrapped in oilcloth, was an envelope for Ezra when the vultures finally circle. That sneaky old man. Inside, the original 1923 mineral rights deed filed separately. Turns out the island sits on limestone worth millions. More important, a trust document with a reversion clause. If anyone develops the land without family consent, ownership transfers to the state environmental agency. No compensation, no appeal, just boom, it's gone. And if someone builds anyway, they owe triple damages locked in by law. I called Miranda. She laughed real witch cackle if you want the truth. "Ezra, this is a legal bear trap. The more they build, the worse it gets. Let them finish." I visited my grandfather's grave. His stone reads, "He thought ahead." From there I could see my island crawling with construction, every nail driving Darlene closer to her own ruin. My grandfather always said, "Best revenge is letting your enemies hang themselves." He'd spent 40 years braiding that rope. I set up shop on the mainland. Miranda turned my kitchen into a war room, legal documents everywhere, surveillance gear, the works. Cole's research found shell companies in 3 states all running the same scam: harass, buy cheap, develop, profit. I rigged the island with hidden cameras. Even Tank joined in, secretly feeding me intel. Trucks dumping illegal fill-off books equipment, every felony stacking up. We found our allies too. Dr. Sarah Kim, environmental scientist, realized the contamination was fake. Mavis kept tracking suspicious permits and donations. Miranda taught me about federal racketeering RICO laws that let the government seize every dirty asset, fund compensation, and restore the environment. By Thanksgiving, our evidence filled 3 bankers' boxes. I'd walk the dock at night, listening to the sounds of construction, knowing every hammer was building my case. December. Darlene threw a grand opening, renamed my island Eagles Rest Eco Resort. The gall of it. She sold half the cabins that first weekend. Buyers. Good people mostly saved their whole lives believing her lies. That made my stomach turn, but the law would make them whole in the end. Darlene got greedy, planned phase 2. More cabins, a marina, a restaurant. Each new scheme was just more proof for the feds. By Christmas, $12 million had changed hands. FBI joined the investigation. Miranda started working with agents in 3 states. The Pritchards' network was national. Watching families move in, I felt like the angel of doom, knowing their dream homes would soon be government property. January, cold enough to freeze ambition. Darlene smelled smoke, started panicking. Sent in corporate security, tried to scrub evidence, harassed my friends, got restraining orders so I couldn't even approach my own land. The irony could choke you. Town split, half the county believed Darlene, half started asking questions. But while she played PR games tank and I gathered the final evidence, secret recordings, fake permits, conversations about removing the hermit permanently. Yeah, that's a felony. One night the phone rang. Mr. Blackwood, this is Special Agent Rebecca Torres, FBI. We need your help for the final phase. Sitting across from her at a government office surrounded by coffee and justice, I said, Agent Torres, I've been ready for this fight since I learned to tie my shoes. We planned the takedown. February 15th. Courthouse packed. Darlene had filed an emergency motion to seize my property, her lawyers, the judge, the press, all set for my public defeat. But when the judge asked if I had representation, Miranda Cross stood up, followed by 3 federal prosecutors. Your Honor, before this continues, the court needs to address federal jurisdiction. U.S. Attorney Harrison brought charges racketeering, fraud, conspiracy, environmental crimes. Courtroom erupted. They read out my grandfather's trust, unauthorized development, triple damages, automatic reversion to the state. $14.7 million in penalties. Darlene turned ghost white. Innocent buyers realized their dream homes were vapor. Tank testified, playing audio of Darlene admitting to bribes and criminal plots. Federal marshals arrested half the county's power players on the spot. Darlene, once Queen Bee, got led out in cuffs, hair a mess, eyes wild. Outside, snow kept falling, but for once it felt peaceful. Grandfather's 40-year plan had snapped shut. My enemies learned some debts can only be paid with federal prison time. 6 months later, the island shined brighter than ever. Darlene, 4 years in prison. Her husband lost $12 million to restitution. The judge resigned. Even the corrupt sheriff's deputy lost his badge. Innocent buyers got their money back. Tank now runs restoration, turning cabins into an environmental research center. The land's safer now than ever, wetlands restored, birds back, wildflowers blooming. I moved back to the old cabin foundation, stronger than ever. Miranda runs a legal clinic for landowners, helping families like mine. Every summer we hold a heritage festival. Kids fish off the new dock built from salvaged timber and the loons call across clean water. Sometimes revenge isn't about fireworks. Sometimes it's inevitable, just takes patience. My grandfather was right, preparation beats anger every time. So let me ask you, when is it right to strike back? Where's the line between defending what's yours and becoming what you hate? I want to hear your story. Have you ever faced a fight like this? Tell me. Because out here, sometimes the only thing standing between justice and the bulldozers is one stubborn voice that refuses to go quietly.